Corey, can you hear us okay?
Got me?
We have you. Perfect. All right. Well, first, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. We appreciate you taking some time to spend with us. And before we get started with questions, congratulations on a great run on Sunday at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Tell us a little bit about that and kind of, how fun that was for your team. I know you happened to show a video from Tech and kind of really had some fun with your team in that moment. But tell us a little bit about Sunday, and then we'll open for questions.
Yeah, I thought it was a great day for us. We talked about it in depth this weekend, obviously on the podcast, Stacking Pennies. So, but I think I realized that the fans and everybody who has supported me to get me, as far in this thing as I've gotten, we're more excited about it than I am. So it was cool to deliver, a good result for the fans, for, our partners, Built Bar, Schluter, FOE that was on the car, Dry Dean, everybody that's been a part of my career who have believed in the abilities to deliver a result like that. It was cool to finally get first top five for those guys, and hopefully it's not the last. But for me, it's it's not where, it's not the end of the road. I feel like we're just getting starting the year with 3 top 15s here at Spire. I think should be celebrated as well. We're doing a lunch here with the guys here shortly. So, definitely means a lot to those guys. We've asked those guys to work more than they've probably ever signed up to work. So, a couple of our guys actually worked all-nighters through the West Coast swing to get cars turned around. So to congratulate those guys and give those guys a solid run like that makes those guys feel like their work's not lost. So when you can deliver on the racetrack for what the work they're putting in off the racetrack, it certainly means a lot.
All right, we're going to go to questions now for Corey. We'll get to as many questions as we can. And to kick us off, we'll start with Bob Pockris. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, good morning, Corey. Spire Motorsports has one top 5 finish this year. Joe Gibbs Racing has one top 5 finish this year. How how does that happen?
That is a softball for me to insert my foot right into my mouth. But obviously we saw Kyle Busch in contention late at Vegas. Caution comes out. I think that might have been the only top 5 they had, but it is a little bit weird looking at the points. I don't think it's going to stay like this for long, because you can't keep a guy like Denny or even Chris Bell out of victory lane for too long. But seeing the 11 car and the 20 car behind you in points 5 races into the year is a little bit unique. So, but we're not racing those guys. Those guys will ultimately figure out and execute a race and then punch their ticket to the playoffs. We're trying to race the other guys we're around, to the couple we're ahead of, to the couple that are right in front of us. I think we can get in points. So I think the next month or so through this road course and then a couple of short tracks and then the dirt race, we're going to try to gap ourselves and put a little bit of cushion in between the guys that we feel like we can beat in points, and hopefully we can finish in the top 25. So, there is not a Spire Motorsports comparison to Joe Gibbs, but it is funny enough for the first, and they also got double the amount of cars we've got. We've got 2 cars. They've got 4 and considerably better funded, but we're going to continue controlling what we can control and let everything else work out how it's supposed to.
And the last 11 races have been won by drivers under 30. And I'm curious, from what you've seen of the quote unquote younger guys. I know you just turned 30. So do you feel like, is there a reason for that? Or is that just, hey, Kyle Larson's won several of those races and he's just really good? Or is there something that you see from the younger drivers versus the older drivers?
There's a lot of good guys young guys driving for good teams. I think that however many of those races were won by Kyle Larson or just a Hendrick driver altogether, whether that be William, Chase, and Alex. So Hendricks is probably carrying the flag in terms of young guys. Their driver lineup's going to be set for the next decade probably, because all those guys can execute and deliver W's. But then you lump in guys like Chase Briscoe. I think that there's something a little bit to younger guys, or even guys new to the Cup Series that maybe are adapting to this next gen car slightly quicker. I don't think there's a whole lot of weight to be or stock to be put into that, but there is obviously there's studies done, and just it's harder to adapt the older you get. It's hard to teach an old dog new tricks, but the experience and maturity level and speed of those older guys will definitely show up at points throughout the year for sure. But it's definitely an interesting stat. Now I'd like to figure out how to get in victory lane. That way they have to just change it to 30 and under, not under 30. That's what I'm going for.
Thank you.
All right, our next question will come from Zach Stern with NBC. Go ahead, Zach.
Hey, Corey. So with temperatures forecasted for this weekend in the, there we go. With temperatures forecasted in the 80s this weekend, what kind of challenges is the heat going to provide? I know it's likely to be the first hot race of the season. There were some concerns with the heat with this next gen car through the off season. How do you expect that's going to factor into this weekend's race?
Man, I'll be honest. I think the heat inside the car is less with this car, with the changes they made to the windshield NACA duct, with the slots in the rear view or in the rear window. The cockpit temperature 5 races in seems to be slightly cooler than the previous car. It'll be the first true test, to your point, this weekend being in the upper 80s, and you're working hard at a road course. You don't really get a break besides the straightaways, and then you're making 800-900 pounds of braking force, and you're turning right, turning left, working muscles that you generally don't work at on an oval. So you're going to be winded. You're going to be your heart rate's going to be up. So this will definitely be the first test on heat. But I think that my guys have done a good job keeping the air circulating in the car well. The cool shirt systems are working well, and helmet blowers as well. So, but this will definitely be a good test to see how hot is real hot.
I know you didn't have a ton of road course experience before you made it into the Cup Series on this full-time basis. After last year's road course races, where do you evaluate yourself on those types of tracks, and what do you consider a good day on a road course for yourself?
Every single road course race in my entire life has been in a Cup car. I haven't raced K&N, late model, like nothing. Every single time I've been on a road course, it's been not at a test session, not anywhere else. It's literally been on live television in a Cup car. So when you're racing against guys like AJ Allmendinger and guys that are been doing this since their whole life, it's a pretty big gap to close, and you got to close it quickly. You got to adapt or overcome, or you're going to get passed over for the next guy that can get the job done. So I've had to really put in a lot of work with shifter carts and a little bit of iRacing, and we don't get the OEM simulator to jump on there and knock the rust off. So you really just got to figure out what your weaknesses are and address them really quick. And I think generally speaking, Chase dumped me at the Daytona road course last year when we were looking at, we could have been in the top 20 at all the road courses last year. So that was my goal last year. I'm going to try to carry that over this year to try to get the top 20 in all the road courses, which would be a tough feat just for my lack of experience on it. And I wish I had the opportunity to race some trucks or Xfinity cars. Like a lot of these guys are plugging their drivers in to get some laps on Saturday before Sunday with a limited amount of practice, but I don't have those resources or tools to be able to do that. So I got to figure out how to bear down and get after it and have a good day on Sunday.
Thanks, Corey.
All right, we're going to continue with questions. Next, we're going to take Kevin Little. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, hi, Corey. I am the reporter for the Austin newspaper, so I wanted to ask you a little bit more about COTA. You raced in the monsoon here last year, but won't be anything like that this year. What were your impressions of the track, particular challenges of the track, and things that you liked and maybe disliked about it?
Yeah, I think it's what's not taken into consideration over this winter. They repaved the majority of the track, so the abrasiveness. There was an element of tire conservation in the dry that you had to keep in mind, but I think that's going to be gone because most of the slow speed sections and the S's they repaved. So it's going to be hammered down, super aggressive the entire time, and also all the marks and the brake markers and visual cues that you were trying to figure out in the rain. For example, you couldn't see a car length in front of you. So my brake marker into is at 11 or 12 at the end of the long back straightaway. There was a walkway over it. So I knew once I passed the walkway, it was a 3 Mississippi before I had to brake as hard as I possibly could. And then by then the mist would kind of die down and you can make the corner. So I believe I should have a little bit more finer marks than a 3 Mississippi after a walkway bridge this year, but I'll have to figure those out in practice and figure it out pretty quick.
Thanks.
Okay, our next question will come from Trey Downey with MRN. Go ahead, Trey.
Hey, Corey, I want to look ahead to Richmond next week a little bit. The track surface has gotten really worn out and tire wear has been heavy, especially last year. With this new car, do you expect the tire wear to be any more, any less, about the same?
I think you'll see the delta from new tires to old tires be more, just because you're reliant so much on that extra, I believe it's 1.5 inches wider tire patch to make speed early in the run. And then if you're relying that much more on the tires for short run speed, then you're going to give up more on the back end of the run. And you're going to be pedaling, man. Richmond is a place where you can't even get wide open down the front straightaway later in the run. So I think that's what the drivers enjoy. Hopefully I think the tires that Goodyear's been taking to all these tracks, especially, Phoenix and Vegas, we're starting to actually see some marbles like we haven't seen in a couple of years. We've seen more of like rubber dust as opposed to marbles. So hopefully that kind of lays some rubber down on the racetrack and it makes it wide, as opposed to just a 1-lane racetrack. And so I generally like going to Richmond, but I think tire conservation and durability will be more of a factor here with these next gen cars. And I think you'll see a lot more comers and goers, guys better on the short runs and versus guys that hedge or bet to be soft and compliant and be there at the end of the run.
Even with the old car, the gap between the bigger teams and smaller teams was obviously smaller at short tracks with less aero involved and stuff like that. With this new car, does that gap at short tracks shrink anymore?
I think so, but even though the gap shrinks, the amount of time from the first place car to the 30th place car will be less, whether that's a couple tenths, whatever that number is, that gap is less, but the percentage of you're off to the leader is still equally as hard to overcome. You know what I mean? So if you're off now 2% in a couple areas, downforce or mechanical grip or dampers or whatever the case may be that you're a little bit off, it's going to be that much harder to overcome because there's guys that are closer to you. If you're 20th place car, you're going to have the guys that are 24th, 25th nipping at your heels just the same. So hopefully we can have another good day there. I cut my teeth on short tracks. I had some good runs there in the ARCA car or in the Canyon car at Richmond. So I think I got a decent feel for it. I haven't run great there in a cup car. So hopefully this current cup car should change that.
Thank you.
Okay, our next question will come from Jerry Jordan. Go ahead, Jerry.
You're on mute, pal.
Oh, Jerry, I think you're on mute. There you
there.
go.
Okay. Hey, which was cooler, going backwards through the air or getting the top 5 finish? I have a couple of questions for you.
I could assure you finishing 5th is a hell of a lot cooler than flying backwards, not knowing where you're going to end up. So I think the whole event was cool. I'm sure my owners did not appreciate, a $300,000 race car slide backwards to the grass at 180, but luckily, man, these next gen cars are durable when they're able to take some cosmetic damage and not knock a whole lot of speed out of it. We saw some guys like Kurt Busch finish 4th with a busted up nose. Kyle Larson was fighting for the lead with a busted up nose. So we got lucky, man. It's not often you get to take a ride like that and then turn around and finish top 5. But we had a fast car. I mean, that makes my job easier. And when you can be on the offensive, when you can put your car in holes that it's able to maintain and go past some guys.
And more serious, one of the things I think you said after you got out of the car that it was one of the hardest hits you had. Bubba Wallace also said that his wreck was a hard hit. What do you think the cause of that, and is that any concern going forward?
I didn't say it was the hardest hit I've ever had. I wrecked last week at Phoenix when the wheel fell off, and I asked NASCAR and John Padalecki to pull the crash data from. I wrecked there my first Cup year. I got wrecked in the Trioval, and relatively the same angle, same spot, and pretty much the data laid over top of each other. And actually, the old car had a higher peak G load and acceleration than this next gen car did, all things considered. Now, I don't think that these things are a little bit stiffer, you know, but with the big front bumpers and rear bumpers and the crash foam in the front, it does absorb a little bit more than the previous car. But you know, we're sitting in 3,600 pounds of steel going 180 miles an hour. Like when you hit something, it's gonna hurt. You know, that's like at the end of it, you can make the car as safe as you want to, but your body's not made to go from 180 to 100 miles an hour in a split second. That's what we're asking. That's what we're asking to do. It's almost an impossible task, but it's also, you know, hey, we know what we signed up for. It's why we get paid a lot of money for a short period of time to do something a lot of other people won't.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, guys, I was on mute. I'm going to take one additional question here before we close from Dr. Zoltan. Go ahead, Dr. Zoltan.
Hey, Corey. Thanks for the opportunity. You participated in last fall's test in Charlotte, which was the first time you get to test the new cars on a road course. Do you think you will have an advantage because of that this weekend, or was it too long ago and the two tracks are too different?
It's definitely not a disadvantage, you know, getting an understanding of how aggressive you can be on the downshifts, how much better braking potential, the bigger brake rotors and the overall package has. I think the next gen car, you know, was designed for many different reasons, but I feel like it's best suited for road courses with wider tires, with narrower sidewalls, and that sequential box and bigger brakes. Like it is going to handle and be a more fun car to drive as opposed to the taxi cabs that we had that wouldn't turn, wouldn't stop, wouldn't go, and they had really narrow tires. So I think that, you know, with 15, 20 minutes of practice, everybody will be up to speed generally by the end of it once you figure out what your markers are. But, you know, definitely it's not going to hurt to have some laps of a couple of days here at the Roval to transfer. But, you know, the Roval across the street over here from Spire, like, is really not a, you know, it's not a road course. It is a, you know, it's a bunch of access roads inside of an oval. COTA is a road course designed to F1 specs, where there's some fast flowy corners, there's some real slow technical corners and some heavy braking zones when you're going, you know, almost 190 miles an hour down to probably 35, 40. So that's a road course, and that'll be the first true test of these cars here this weekend.
Thank you very much for your answer and best of luck to you.
Appreciate it.
All right. Any final questions for Corey? All right. We look good to go. Corey, thank you again for your time. We really appreciate it. Best of luck this weekend.
Y'all have a good day.